Hi there, Peter again from the Romford Film Festival. I'm here with Edie Walwyn, who is the writer and director of Sufuku, one of the short films playing this year. Nice of you to join us, Edie. Thanks so much for coming.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
So, you wrote this film, short film. What's it about? Give us a flavour.
Well, the premise is about a young woman who completes Sudoku puzzles for money, and that's a rather unusual way of making money, and leads to some complications.
So the film is this girl as well, but she's also got a group of friends, and they've got quite an interesting dynamic between the friends. Do you want to tell us just a little bit about that?
Yeah, like it's kind of based on the sort of friendships where you sort of start to forget why you're all friends. Those sort of long-term friends and your lives go in very different directions, but you kind of hang out of habit, really. And then that can lead to some rather toxic dynamics, and when you know someone just far too well. And so that can come out in affection, but also sort of tension.
It felt like you almost, would you say you personally related to those characters in a way? Is that sort of based on your life or a version of it?
Yeah, absolutely. I am pretty self-important in my writing, so I just base it on what I see and experience.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's sort of the way that I tend to write. And I've been certainly in some toxic friendships. They pull through, or they sometimes don't. And so I've definitely been part of a dynamic like that one.
That's an interesting point. Would you say those relationships were sort of true to life, or are they an exaggeration, or?
I think that there's certainly a competitiveness that I've experienced, particularly with the pronunciation. I've absolutely had arguments like that, and people who've seen the film are very split down the middle as to whose side they're on, and I would say I'm verging on Maria's side, where I like to unpick other people's sort of mistakes, partly because of my own sort of sense of holding myself to ridiculously high standards and being quite hard on myself. So I like to be hard on others, and certainly with pronunciation it's an easy way to sort of start that kind of process.
Yeah. So talking of process, can we talk about your writing process? So when you wrote this film, did it all come out in one go? Did it take you a while? How did you get to the story?
Certainly most of it came out all in one go, because I wrote this film on a train ride from Manchester just after dropping out of university, or deciding to, and I was actually playing Sudoku puzzle, and then my mind was wandering, as it does. Often when before I'm writing, I'll listen to music, stare out the window or walk, and then I'll go and write, and that's kind of what happened. So the majority of it I got down on paper pretty much straight away. Some of it came a bit later, but yeah, most of it was all in one go.
So we follow a group of female friends. There's a lot written about how female characters are underrepresented. Was it a conscious decision to you, or is it just something you believe in, that there should be more portrayals of female friends, groups of friends, that kind of dynamic? You don't see a lot, but your film does have that.
Most of my writing comes from my interactions with my closest friends, and I kind of wanted to speak from my own voice and their voices, and I didn't want to write something inauthentic, so that's kind of why it stayed that way.
Okay, yeah. So this is the first film you've written and co-directed. What has been your path before now up into making this film?
I started doing like film clubs when I was a teenager, which is where I learned most of what I know with regards to filmmaking. We started on short documentaries, sometimes some fiction, but that was mostly what I kind of learn on. And then I kind of put it to one side for a few years while I was doing my A-levels. And then I started working with the producer as a producer's assistant and then reading scripts.
Okay.
And then I decided to make this film. And I was just after I dropped out of Manchester.
Okay, so what would you say were some of your influences? Do you have influences that you think about, or maybe some subconsciously, some filmmakers maybe, or writers who would give us an idea of who some of those people you admire maybe?
Yeah, I really liked The Neon Demon, and I'd seen that.
Oh, the Nick Winding Refn film?
Yes.
I love that film.
Yeah,
what a great film.
It's so good, and that was a big influence on this
okay,
piece.
yeah, I can see that.
With the sort of really cartoonish red blood and the sort of female aggression that comes out in either passively or then perhaps straight up violence.
In the end of the film particularly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that's a sort of positive representation, but it certainly was. Absolutely. And Fleabag was also a big influence.
Okay, I got Fleabag vibes from the film, absolutely.
Well, that's great.
Yeah, brilliant.
I think Fleabag is absolutely fantastic.
Isn't it incredible?
And particularly the shot of when she's walking through London with her makeup smudged.
I know exactly the scene you're talking about.
I kind of wanted to exactly replicate that in the end of the film. So those were my two sort of big, really obvious influences.
Yeah,
but I'm very much into my classic mythology and Shakespeare, and so Medea, Euripides' Medea was a big influence, sort of thematically, and the sort of Shakespearean tragic hero, I see Maria as very much a sort of Macbeth type character, where she very much feels entitled to the way that she behaves. Okay. But there's clearly something inside her that understands that it's not an appropriate way to behave. So that was sort of a subconscious, that's always in the back of my mind, those sort of themes around morality and the tragic hero.
Brilliant. So you touched on some of the characters then. How did you cast this film?
Well, I'm lucky enough to have a sister who studied at RADA, so...
Okay, wow. Got some good access there.
And I felt that she was very much in a place to sort of really get this character because she knows me and she's probably seen my worst sides, and I think she probably was able to play that character with those true sort of themes. And she went to a similar school to me and probably was in some of those female friendship dynamics that I was in. So I think all three of the actors were really able to kind of understand the nuances of those complex friendships that we talked about.
How long did that process take to find the main three actresses?
It didn't take very long. I think we did auditions across like 2 days, and Sam, the co-director, and I, but we were pretty much like very much in agreement. Ella and Ingavira really stood out for these roles, so it was we were both very excited when we were able to see what they could do.
That leads me into my next question nicely, actually. So you mentioned Sam, that's Sam Cornish.
Yes.
He's the co-director of this film. I was interested how that dynamic works on a set, because to me, having two people direct is very interesting. I've not had any experience with myself. Tell me, how does that work practically on set?
Well, the theory behind it was that neither of us had directed before, and we thought that therefore having two people sort of supporting each other as a team would be a good stepping stone. That did mostly work in practice because Sam and I had lots of conversations about the film, and I feel that we both really understood each other's point of view and that we understood each other's vision. But we're also very different personalities, so he's very much more practical and I'm kind of a bit more like part of the vision and like the sort of like up in the fairies, I want to do this and that. Yeah. And so I feel that in practice it really worked very well because neither of us are less creative than the other, but it just shows in different ways, and I feel we were able to really kind of achieve what we wanted. That being said, it doesn't mean we didn't want to kill each other by the end of it. But, you know, we're still friends now. So,
oh, good.
You know.
That's good to hear. That's really interesting, the other two people, yeah. Yourself, do you prefer directing or do you prefer writing? Or can you not make a comparison?
Well, I think my love is really writing, but I did enjoy sort of making these words actually come to life through sort of through the filmmaking process. I found that very rewarding, but it is a very hard job. You know, when you're a writer, you can sometimes just kind of step back and let them do it, I guess. But I had to sort of make it into something. But I had Sam, luckily, there as well. But I think my real sort of love is with writing.
Great. Let's talk about funding. So how did you get the film funded?
We ran a campaign through Kickstarter, and we were fully funded through that. We easily reached our goal due to very generous people. We had lots and lots of pledges, small, big donations, and people who really had no reason to support the project other than putting their faith in us. And that was honestly an amazing sort of validation of the project, that people felt like they could put our faith in us, and we had no work to show them to sort of back it up.
Yeah,
and it
true,
was a
as a
leap
first
of
time
faith.
filmmaker, especially an independent filmmaker. I'm guessing that's a really big. Was it? So you didn't find it difficult? That's really positive. Really.
Yeah, like it was a hard sell, but people just took the leap of faith, and we worked very hard on the campaign, and it was extremely time consuming, but it's like any sort of advertising campaign, you know, there's a lot of work put into it, and you have to sort of get people along for the ride.
Brilliant. So next projects, have you got anything in the pipe? Are you going to work with Sam again? What's your plans?
Sam and I have a project that we might be working on, COVID dependent, but hopefully we can find a way to make that happen, whatever goes on. So that's a documentary. I can't really say too much about it yet,
okay.
But I think it's going to be quirky and fun. I think a little bit of what we all need right now. And I've written a script which shall be turning into a short play.
Okay.
And so that's kind of my next project, and it's kind of following on a little bit from Sufuku, and it's set in a nail parlour, and just like with Sufuku, getting your nails done seems like a very simple thing, just like completing a Sudoku puzzle for a prize, but as with Sufuku, we know that it doesn't always go that way.
Yeah. And what about for Sufuku? What's its future? Are you going to show it at other festivals, or what's the plan?
We'll now be putting it online,
Okay.
so it's kind of done its festivals, and we'll now be sort of releasing it to the world.
Brilliant. Edie, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming to Romford Film Festival.
Yeah, it's been lovely. Thank you.